There is a moment when the room feels heavier than it should. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, just a subtle pressure behind the eyes. A tightness in the chest that doesn't come from fear, more like anticipation. You notice it before anyone speaks, before a voice changes, before a door closes too softly, the air shifts. And something in you adjusts without asking permission. It's uncomfortable, not painful, just off. You might not even look around. You don't need to. Your body already knows where to stand, what to avoid, what tone to use if you are spoken to. You slow down, you soften, you make space. Not because you were told to, but because stillness feels safer than surprise. There is a strange fatigue that comes with this. It doesn't feel like tired muscles. It feels like being awake too long inside someone else. As mood. You've felt it for as long as you can remember, though you would to have had words for it then. As a child, there were moments when the room decided the rules, not out loud, but clearly. Laughter could turn sharp. Silence could stretch too far. And you learned how to listen for what was being said. Other kids were busy being loud, busy testing limits, busy not noticing. You were watching, waiting, tracking small changes that other people missed. A breath held too long, a pause where a sentence should be, a smile that did to reach all the way. You didn't think of it as skill. It felt more like staying out of the way. But that's not the part most people notice. What they see later is how calm you seem, how composed, how aware. They assume you are naturally steady, naturally patient. They don't see the quiet work happening underneath. They don't see how much attention it takes to keep the peace inside yourself while reading everyone else at the same time. There's a particular loneliness in that, being tuned in while staying unspoken. You learn early that emotions move through rooms like weather, unpredictable, sometimes sudden, and you learn how to read the sky. But that is not where it starts to change, because at first it feels like vigilance, a way to stay safe. Later, it feels like responsibility. You begin to feel oddly accountable for moods that were not yours, for tension you did create, for silences you didn't choose. You adjust yourself instead. You choose words carefully. You soften your presence. You become smaller in places where emotions feel too big. Not because anyone asked you to, but because it works. It keeps things from tipping over. And that becomes familiar. There's comfort in knowing how to sense the edge before others do, and knowing when to step back, when to step in. It feels like awareness, like maturity, but there's something quieter happening underneath. Over time, you stop noticing your own reactions first. You notice the room. You don't ask what you feel. You scan for what others might feel next. It happens so fast it barely registers. A look, a shift, a tone, and your body responds before thought arrives. This is why rest can feel strange, even unsafe. When nothing is happening, you don't know where to place your attention. Your senses stay alert, waiting. And that waiting becomes part of who you are. You might be told you are sensitive or intuitive or wise beyond your years. It sounds like praise, but it doesn't quite land that way, because it did come from abundance. It came from necessity. But that is not the part most people notice. What they notice is how well you understand others, how easily you read between lines, how quickly you sense when something is wrong. They dawn at see what it costs. They dawn at see how rarely you let yourself fully arrive in a moment without monitoring it. There is a distance you learn to keep, even when you care deeply. A part of you stays just outside the scene, watching. It keeps you safe. It keeps things smooth. But it also means you are often a step removed from your own experience. You feel things deeply, but you feel them after everyone else has settled, after the air has cleared, after the danger has passed. That delay becomes normal, and you don't question it, because it started so early it feels like personality. But that's not the truth of it. Not entirely. Halfway through this understanding, something begins to shift. Not suddenly, more like a slow focusing of the lens. You start to realize that what you developed wasn't just empathy, It was anticipation, the ability to sense emotional movement before it fully appeared. You learned to predict, to adjust, to adapt ahead of time, not because you wanted to help, but because uncertainty felt unsafe. You didn't just feel others' emotions. You learned how to manage them quietly, internally, before they could land on you. This is the skill that formed too early, not kindness, not compassion, but emotional forecasting. The constant scanning for shifts so you could position yourself accordingly. Once you see it, it's hard to unsee. You notice how often you enter a space already preparing, already adjusting your tone, already shaping yourself around what might happen. You notice how rarely you enter without expectation, and there's a strange grief in that awareness. Not dramatic, just heavy, because it means there was a time when being present wasn't enough, when being responsive wasn't enough. You had to be ahead. This isn't about blame. There's no villain here. Just a nervous system that learned early how to survive emotional unpredictability by becoming exquisitely attuned. Worked too well. It gave you depth, perception, a way of understanding people that feels almost wordless. But it also trained you to stay slightly braced, even in calm moments. That's the part that wears you down. Not caring too much, not feeling deeply, but never fully standing down. There's something else most people miss. This skill doesn't shut off easily. Even in safe relationships, even in quiet rooms, you still listen for what's beneath the words. You still notice shifts others ignore. And sometimes you respond to things that never actually happen. A tone that reminds you of something old, a pause that echoes a past silence. Your body reacts before the present moment has a chance to prove itself. That S, not weakness. It S conditioning. And seeing it clearly brings a different kind of calm. Not relief, not resolution, just understanding. You begin to recognize when you were preparing instead of being. You notice the subtle tightening, the mental positioning. And for the first time, you realize you were allowed to stay. Even if you dawn, know what comes next. That realization does change everything at once. It arrives slowly. Sometimes it only shows up as a pause. A breath you did take before, a moment where you dawn, adjust right away. That's enough. The pacing shifts near the end, not because everything is settled, but because you are no longer chasing clarity. You understand why silence can feel loud, why calm can feel unfamiliar. You see the pattern without needing to judge it. The skill is still there. It always will be, but now it is seen. And being seen changes how tightly it holds you. You don't have to stop noticing. You don't have to stop feeling. You just don't have to stay ahead all the time. Sometimes you can arrive where you are and let the room reveal itself at its own pace. That's not a lesson. It's just a quiet truth, one that settles in slowly, like the body finally realizing it's allowed to rest.